This is my 1985 Porsche 928. It was delivered damaged and, moreover, badly in need of maintenance. However, the prospect of owning a 928 at the price I paid for it, which we will reveal in this video, was too good to pass by. So, in the last videos I showed you how we fixed up the damage and how we caught up on the deferred maintenance. So today then, let's look at all the costs and I'll show you all the stuff that we've done to the car, what it's cost to get it to the condition that it currently is, and we'll tot them all up at the end, see what the overall cost is and where I should stop. There's a place where you have to stop, I think, and we'll get into that discussion at the end. All right then, let's start with costs. I've got my iPad with me so I can read out the costs for you and show you what we've done and how much things cost. So we'll start with these lovely extreme contact Continental tyres. The car came with tyres that were, I want to say 10 or 12 years old. So given the way I drive, I thought probably sensible to get that done. So we had 4 brand new tyres. They're all season tyres. And those cost me $674.30. I had tyre rack deliver them and fit them on the premises, so that made me feel a bit better. I didn't have to go anywhere to do it. So first thing, tyres. So after tyres, I decided honestly that I didn't want to work on this car myself. Firstly, I didn't have enough time. I wanted to get down to Amelia Island. It had spent a lot of time having its damage fixed here. And honestly, I wanted to get it in a good shape so I could drive it down to Amelia Island and have a lot of fun with it. So off to Matt it went. We did quite a lot with Matt. And my aim with all of this was to, look, let's just make it reliable, make it safe. And then the nice to haves we can do afterwards. And I'll get to that at the end, you know, in the bit that we're going to talk about where we should stop with this car, because there is a place we should stop, I think. Now, what he discovered when he got into it was that it actually quite a lot of deferred maintenance. He had to do quite a lot of cleaning on the oil pan. And I think probably that work isn't over. So this is not a one and done. But nevertheless, let's take you through this. 15 and a half hours to tear down the front of the engine, remove the timing belt, water pump and tensioner, install new water pump, install new timing belt with upgraded tensioner. We did 3.2 hours of cleaning the cooling system. And we're not quite there yet either. I don't think we're going to be there. We're there yet. We're probably going to have to do more on it. The heater core. Yeah, we're probably going to have to sort that out at some stage, but it's good enough for now. That was 3.2 hours. The steering rack. We completely replaced all the steering parts, new steering rack, drop front subframe, replace motor mounts, remove oil pan, reassemble with new gasket, etc. 11.8 hours. Then we did a full brake job. Rotors, hoses, steel braided hoses, discs and pads, as we would say in the UK. 6.7 hours. We flushed the rear diff with fresh gear oil, just under an hour for that. Then we found that the spark plug wires were all cracked and horrible. So that was something I wasn't expecting, but you know, kind of whilst you're in there, may as well do it. 6.7 hours. 1.9 hours on that. Add all that up, and there were ancillary stuff as well that, you know, are not significant to the commentary here, and hoses and seals and belts that we replaced all the way, and cracked rubber to fix all of that. The grand total of labour, this is labour only, $6,306.47. So parts then, well, you know, those good chaps at 928s are us. Roger particularly supplied all the parts for this car. I paid for them, most of them. He gave me a good deal. I won't tell you what the deal was he gave me, but it was a good deal, and thank you, Roger and 928s are us for that. And they sponsored these videos, which was really nice of them to do that. So the parts, the expensive parts, let's say, I'm not going to go through all of them because there were quite a lot of them. The CSF radiator was $695. The water pump was $245. The steering rack, which is a rebuilt one, $645. I got a pair of motor mounts for $150, rotors $160, and so on and so forth. You get the message. The grand total of all of the parts that I've spent, $3,535. So look, that's where we got to. Why did I choose to stop there, and why did I choose those particular things to get done? Well, water pump and timing belt. Everybody you will talk to who has ever owned a 928 will tell you that those are the things you've got to get done first. It's the IMS bearing, as that is to the 996 water pump. Timing belt is to the 928. It has such a long timing belt, and this particular one had sat there for donkey's years. Who knows how long before that was done. The radiator was leaking. What do? It just seems like a bad economy. Whilst you've got the radiator off to get into the water pump and the timing belt and what have you, you put a new one on, right? The brakes. You just need to do brakes, really. It's a no-brainer, isn't it? You know, the initial, the discs that came with this particular car had a ridge on it on the end. The pads were maybe about a bit of life left in them. Just get them done, then you know. And the steel braided hoses, I think you want to be able to stop, right? Also, what else have I done? The steering rack. That was just dangerous. I was driving this car around before it went into mats, and you would brake and it would veer you all over the road. The inner tie rods were wobbly and all over the place. So in order to have a car that drives well and that didn't leak, kind of had to be done. So we've kind of got to the stage. And by the way, I should have mentioned also that I have done an automatic transmission flush as well. I did that myself. Not very difficult, a bit of a pain in the backside because it's not like any normal car where you would just change the automatic transmission fluid through the hood. You just pour some in and that would be easy. No, on a 928, it's actually just in front of the rear wheels. So you've got to get it up on jack stands to do that. But that was relatively cheap. A filter was, I want to say $60. The fluid, probably a similar amount, maybe a bit more. And now the gearbox works really, really well. So lastly then, what did I pay for the car itself? Well, I think I got a fairly good deal. Now remember, this is a car that has suffered from deferred maintenance. There's no rust on it. It's a good foundation of a car. It's also a Euro car, which are quite rare, and they have a bit more power. Now, the engine's probably a little bit tired, but then so is every other engine. A US version would equally be tired. And these ones carry 310 horsepower when they were new versus, I think, 234 on the US 85 model year and before. 288, I think, if you get the 32 valve 5 litre 85 on 928. So I got it off a guy on Craigslist. I didn't look at it before it came. I didn't see it before it came, but I knew that it was a pretty good foundation. Now, if you're watching this video, how much 928s cost in this market right now. For this car, I paid $12,000. Now, I think that is pretty good. I don't think that's a bad price at all. I think I could have done a whole lot worse. What I did not get was a pristine 928 by any stretch. And I think that leads us into the next conversation about, well, how far do we go with this car? It is not ever going to be a garage queen, and that wasn't really why I bought it. So if you're watching this video and you're thinking, well, I might like a 928, what is it going to cost me to make it perfect? So we're not going to go there with this car, because I don't think it would cost me way more than it's worth. Way more than it's worth. And I think, honestly, that's the name of this game, isn't it, really? There's only so much that you can spend on a car before it becomes a passion project and not something that makes any financial sense. So you make up your mind on this, whether you think that the amount I've spent on it is way more than it's ever going to be worth or not. Now, what I've got it to is a good driver. It starts on the button. It's safe. I've got oodles of performance. It drives well, it rides well. Maybe we could do shock absorbers and springs. The wheels are a bit scruffy. Yeah, that's cosmetic, isn't it? And it's a question of whether you like these manhole covers or not. I'm not a big fan of the manhole cover. I think they're a bit, the offset could do with coming out a bit, maybe an inch bigger. But to get some decent wheels, probably you're talking £4,000. Don't know about that. You know, that looks as if it's going to be horrendously expensive if you're not careful. If you add up suspension, wheels, you could be in for another £7,000 or £8,000 just doing that. So what I've got then is a decent driver that I don't have to worry too much about. I can take my time with it now. I don't know how long I'm going to keep it. As you know, with the Boxster, I didn't keep that very long. I didn't really gel with the Boxster, to be honest with you. I'm slightly too big for it. It drove really well, but it just wasn't my kind of thing. This is kind of a bit more my thing, if I'm really honest, and it could be something I keep for a couple of years, but don't hold me to that, because the next thing you'll see is a new video where I look what I've bought, everybody, another Porsche. But you know, classic cars can be a passion project over time. If you amortize the expenditure over a number of years, then it doesn't seem so bad, does it? And as they get rarer and rarer over the years, then possibly the values will creep up. They've been saying about that for about 928 since forever, though, haven't they? And they never really have come up. I suppose they have done in the since the pandemic. You know, the GTSs and things like that. There've been some that have been going for over 100,000, but we're never going to get there with this car. So with the front end, with the work that I've done for it for now, that will do for now, I think. There are a few things that I think I do have to get done. Air conditioning. The air conditioning is empty on this, and it is the old, I think they call it R12, and it needs to be converted to, is it R134A? I think that's what it is, the stuff that doesn't kill the planet anyway. I think the conversion is relatively cheap, assuming there are no leaks and everything works. And that's where a sort of a $200, $500 thing becomes $2,000, and then you think, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done there? So that and the heater, I think probably do need fixing. I don't think I'm going to do the seats. I've actually got some leather seat covers. I might have those fitted. That could be quite inexpensive because they came with the car, and they might finish it off. But the colour is slightly off because that's new leather versus the old leather that's in here. The leather in there doesn't offend me, to be perfectly honest. What else? I think that's pretty much about it that, you know, you absolutely have to be done without getting into shiny wheels and respraying parts of the car. As you guys know, the condition of the paintwork's not immaculate. It is at the front where we had that damage repaired, which is really nice up there. And thank you to Dwayne at Westchester Classic Cars over in Danbury, Connecticut, for doing that. He did a really terrific job, and as I've always said, my Craigslist shot is at the front. The pictures of the back and the side might be a bit blurry if I ever do sell it. But I've got a car I can use, so what's wrong with that? So fill the comments up below with what you think about how much I've spent. Have I overdone it? Will I get my money back? Should I care if I get my money back? If I keep it long enough, does it really matter? And if I'm enjoying the car, does it really matter? You know, people do things to their cars simply because they want to and because they want to enjoy the car. Should I have bought one for 22, 24,000 around there and got one in slightly better condition? Well, maybe. One of the reasons I watch a lot of car channels on YouTube actually is simply because I like to see old things being made better. And that gives me a lot of pleasure, to be perfectly honest. And I'm not sure there would have been much of a story for YouTube, honestly, if I'd have bought one that is in pretty good shape and just said, hey, look at my nice 928. Is that interesting? So you've got to put in the YouTube factor. I do YouTube and I like telling stories. You could argue I'm not very good at it, but but there we are. So there we are. I'll look forward to your comments. Thank you very much indeed for watching. I've enjoyed your company. I hope you've enjoyed mine. Like or subscribe, or both, hopefully, if you like this kind of thing. We're going to do some more stories with the 928. And here's a little look at what's coming up next. Thanks for watching. Next week on your favourite Porsche YouTube channel, we look at the 991.1.